What's up, family? What's up, people? We out here. We motherfucking out here. You know, family. Family. You know, the thing about family is, we come from different backgrounds. Sometimes you have half brothers, half sisters, you know. But in a man's life, in a man's life, uh, he thinks about his mother first, his kids second, and himself. And in a woman's life, she thinks about the man first, the kids second, and herself. A woman is supposed to be selfless, which means she gotta take care of other people before she take care of herself. And then the question now rises: what is, what is the man and the woman, to each other? They are best friends. Yeah, the man and the woman are best friends. So that's the orientation. In a man's life, the man thinks about the mother first, that's the priority, the kid second, that's the next priority, and himself. And in a woman's life, the priority is a man. That be a woman that's in a relationship or a woman that's married. The man in his life comes first, the kid second, and then herself last. So being in a family or in a family scenario, you ain't gonna cook and then your kid is gonna be eating first when the man is at the house. That's just not how it goes. So because when things like that happen, the kids seeing you treat the man in a bad manner, you don't treat the man well. It gets to the point where the kids they start disrespecting dad because they know, you ain't putting dad first. So you gotta put dad first in most things in a relationship, especially when it's going well. He doing his thing. He's being a provider. He's honest. He's being a man and he's doing what he needs to do. So the same in a man's life. If his mom was somewhat helpful in the man's life to build him up, she wasn't abusive, she wasn't verbally abusive. No, the man has a responsibility to put the mom first. And the man knows how to separate the love between the mother, the family love, and its girl. The man knows how to separate the love between his mom. He knows how to separate the love that he gives to his kids, and he knows how to separate the love that he gives to his wife. So in a man's life, you already know. Um, think about this scenario. Motherfuckers keep giving this scenario. You see this shit all the time on the internet. Motherfuckers say, uh, let's say nobody can swim. Your mom is in the water, your wife is in the water, and your kid is in the water. Who are you going to save first if none of them can swim but you can swim? Who are you going to get out of the water first? You know, for motherfuckers be like, oh, I can't answer that question. I can't answer that question. I don't know who's gonna get out. I don't know if it's I have to get out my wife, my kids. What am I gonna take out? I would say things you heard about what I'm saying. I would prefer. I hope you take your mom out first if she was a decent mom, because some motherfuckers have some horrible moms out here. You don't even have to consider them. You don't even have. But what I'm trying to say is, if you have something decent, you know, you had a decent situation growing up, you know, uh, I will hope you pick out your mom out of that water first, save her first, before you save anybody else, because you can have another child, not to my own born children. This is no this no what's the word what's the word, but you know what I mean. Like, this is no hate on them. You can have another child, but you can't have another mom. And the same with a woman. You can have another woman, you can have another mom. So I hope most men out there pick up their mom out of that water first. Save your mom first, you know. Okay. Another thing about understanding that, you know, it's not about sometimes it's not about the love you have for somebody. It's about the principles you hold, the values you hold, you know. So that, you know, that's one of the things you know you gotta. That's one of the values you can look up to and put in one of your diaries, in your in your way of life, like for real, for real. So the same way you love somebody and they cheat on you, you gonna start looking at them sideways. You know, that's the same idea about how you know you should use this information to help you. You know, but for the most part, this is what works. Yes, this is what works. You know, uh, it's been like that. You know, talking about the matriarchy, it's been like that. The matriarchy is what we we strive to. We like the matriarchy. We're living in a patriarchal world today. You know, we're living in a patriarchy world today. So you know, it's and one thing I gotta say, women do like the patriarchy. Women do like a man, you know, to come down, knee down, and present a ring to them. Like I don't know where that shit coming from, but that ain't African. You know, that ain't African. So. Uh, we live in a patriarchal world. You know, women do like a man doing all the extra stuff. You know, so at this point, you know, do what fits you. But you know how a man thinks now, and you know, as I said, it ain't a bad thing that yes, a man and a woman is the best friend of a woman. That is a good title. That ain't a bad title. You know, that ain't a bad title. You know, being best friends with your girl, you know, that ain't a bad title. So I don't know why, because now I know how this shit's gonna shook some of you people, some of you ladies. You gonna be like, how come I don't even come third in a man's life? How come I don't even come third in a man's life? You know, that it's you know, it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. Yeah. Thank you. So think about it, meditate on it, you know. But that's one thing I've learned, and I know, it works. It works. It works.